Hello. On January 14th and 15th, we will have two celestial objects that are actually stationary. I'm going to show you actually two charts that I prepared for you. This is made by Astrokarma, the charts themselves, and the planets that are in black are direct, and the planets in magenta are the ones that are at the moment retrograde. So this is the chart for the 14th. Here you see the nodes, Sedna, Ceres, what else? Of course, Venus still, and Uranus are, and of course, I think even Pluto, these are retrograde. Anyhow, what we are going to look at is actually two things: Mercury and Ceres. And it's funny because Mercury is stationary on both days, but on the 14th, it is still stationary direct. And on the 15th, it is stationary retrograde, whereas Ceres, I didn't put the S there because this program doesn't show stationary, you need to calculate it. But anyhow, in this chart on the 14th, you see Ceres still retrograde because it's magenta, and then on the 15th you see it black already, so this is stationary direct. Why is this important? Well, in karmic astrology there are actually two placements: stationary, retrograde, or direct. Most of the planets in a chart usually are direct, and in that case we only look at its house placement, sign placement, you know, the usual stuff. It's potential aspects and so on. And this is how we delineate them. Why can planets be retrograde at all? Well, I prepared another thing for you. I hope it's still on the same document. I copied this. The photo credit is Tank Tezel. And this is Mercury making an S turn, if you see that. This is called an analemma, by the way, and it is done by a camera that is placed at the same position, and each day a picture is taken from the same position, the same planet, and a couple of days later, this is what you see. This is actually, you can calculate the dots, but I think this is about a 35 day period, 30 day period. But actually, Mercury can only be retrograde for 28 days, so probably it's a 28 day period. So this is it. So this is how it looks like if you take, if you pay attention and you take pictures. It's quite well documented in this way. And you can find many pictures on the internet. I was almost going to show you how what Venus does, because very often when Venus goes retrograde, it goes up and goes out of bounds. So it's even more interesting. It makes a loop. So it's like a flower petal, really. It looks very pretty. But as we are going to look at Mercury today, I try to find a Mercury analemma for you. So why is this important? And why do we see this S-turn of the planets? Because we are unable to observe ellipses. We are from the Earth plane. We are looking at it, and at certain positions, this is how we observe. And it has a very important implication in karmic astrology. Retrograde planets are always karmically wounded, and because the outer planets spend a lot of time retrograding, we don't really take those into account only when they are chart rulers or sun rulers, but when they rule something important. For instance, here's a trick. If you have a Scorpio midheaven and you have a Pluto that is retrograde, then your chances for future aspirations and things like that may be a little bit hindered. This is how we look at it. But we do look at Mercury, Venus, and Mars. At the moment, Venus is retrograding in Capricorn, so it's very rare, by the way, because Venus has an almost perfect round orbit. So it's really interesting to see it for such a long time. And at the same time, Mercury is only stationary on the 14th and 15th, and then it will turn retrograde. Actually, it's already stationary retrograde on the 15th, but it is fully retrograde on the 16th of January. What does it mean? What does it carry? Well, Mercury is the archetype of the child, and of course it denotes speech, communication, studying, learning abilities, the opportunity to study. So it actually covers a lot of karmic wounds, a lot of different types of various types of karmic wounds, because it could actually denote very difficult childhoods. Also, it could denote physical wounds of the speech organs. Think about it. In 200 years ago, they fought wars hand by hand, and even like 500 years ago, of course, the speech organs could get really serious wounds. And if you didn't die as a result, you had to live with it. But also, when you were taken as a slave, for instance, and taken away to a very, very different place of the world, and you didn't know how to speak, how to understand the language there. So there were various difficult situations concerning that. There was no air travel. So once you were taken away from your home, okay, it was very difficult for you to get back, even if you got away or something. Also, if you spent a couple of lifetimes as a man and you managed to study a lot, you became a scholar or a scientist, and then you switched physical bodies and you became a woman and spent one or two incarnations as a woman, and you weren't even allowed to write and read. You couldn't read even you couldn't write down your own name. That's a big deal. That was the serious wound that occurred during such an incarnation. As far as Venus goes, that's again not too frequent, but still it occurs. And whenever you see a retrograde Venus, and those who are born now will have all retrograde Venus, it usually denotes wounded harmony, wounded love, wounded physical body, wounded sexuality, or wounded situations regarding money or wealth. And Mars is a wounded will, retrograde Mars, or wounded sexuality, wounded manhood, things like that. So those are the issues that we are looking at if we see them retrograde. And as for stationary planets, in karmic astrology, whenever you see a stationary planet, which is when it's making the curve, when it's making the turn, really turning retrograde from a direct course or turning direct from a retrograde course, those are the days when usually one and a half day when the planet doesn't really stop. But it actually slows down to 10% or even less of its regular speed. And that is when most computer programs list it as stationary. And whenever you see that, it is a very strong planet. It suggests that it embodies everything that it usually carries in its fullest sense, and it's a very strong position. So if we go back to our charts, on the 14th, this is what you still have. It's quite fascinating to me because, first of all, you have on both days you have a Gemini moon. So Mercury, stationary Mercury, is ruling the moon. And Ceres, the nurturing principle, is also making the switch. One goes direct, Ceres goes direct, and Mercury goes retrograde, while ruling the moon as well. Both the moon and Ceres are related to family issues, motherhood, mothering, nurturing. Of course, the moon is also your spiritual essence, so it's a bit more than usual. the normal, usual delineation of just Ceres, which is really basically the nurturing principle. And then Mercury, besides communication, as I said, is the child archetype. So on the 14th and 15th, you actually you get an energy pattern that is perfect to kind of rectify issues in the family, to talk about them, to bring it to the surface, to sit down and try to reconcile family feud or any kind of dispute that is within the family, between mother and child, between nurtured persons and nurturers. And it gives you the perfect opportunity to just sit down and bring it out to the open, be very honest. Don't try to trick the other person. Try to be very open. It's important. This is, of course, an airy Mercury because it's in Capricorn. Sorry, in Aquarius. And the fact that we have a Capricorn Sun and an Aquarius Mercury is not that bad, because actually it gives you structure to your thoughts and ideas. You might be a little bit more dogmatic than usual, but if you utilize the stationary motion of these two celestial objects, you probably will be able to resolve or get some kind of resolution. So this is for January 14th and 15th. Utilize it well, and thank you for listening. Bye.